our parliament is a platform for debate and discussion. It's also a place where people can express their views, and through parliament they can impact on the legislative process. As you know, the legislation and the laws we make are very important. Mm-hmm. They have a huge impact on citizens of this country. Therefore, parliament is an important instrument of spreading democracy and making things work and making things better for all of us. The issues we raised in Parliament, there are several of them. One was around the quality of the legislation. Mm-hmm. And we have had cases in the past where legislation was sent to us from the other House and COP because it was found to be deficient. We've also had cases where the courts have from time to time sent back legislation to Parliament for correction. So this speaks about two things. One of them is the constitutionality of some of the laws that we pass, and the other one is about the quality of the laws. In terms of the constitutionality of the laws, our starting point is that we are a constitutional state, and therefore all the laws we pass, the laws we make, must be constitutional. Can't be otherwise. The other part about the quality of the legislation also speaks to the need to improve the quality of support to members in terms of either content advisors, legal advisors. So there has to be a capacity that is increasing all the time to support members, because the laws are becoming more and more technical, and therefore we have to have a professional, as it were, a support system, but also individual members of Parliament must also be capacitated through training programs.
Okay. So in other words, you're saying that part of the reason then why you end up with the situation where laws are sent back to you is because of the capacity of the members that are supposed to pass this legislation?
Yes, that's just one reason. And also the other reason, of course, is that no parliament in the world will ever have enough resources for everything. What we need to do is to do things differently. We need to do more with less resources. We also said in the debate that there are other resources out there that we can make use of. These are universities, these are research institutions, academia, civil society, and this can be used by us at no extra cost to the taxpayer. What we need to do is to do things differently and better.
Sure. But other people, Mr. Sisulu here, are suggesting that this is a symptom of a bigger problem. And the problem being mediocrity has set in Parliament. They're talking, for instance, if you make reference to the very important issue that you've pointed out, it's not so much about resources, it's about lazy MPs who are not willing to move out of their comfort zone, then go to these institutions that you are talking about so that they get the capacity that is necessary.
Well, absolutely. Parliament in the past 3 years, the support for members has increased by 70%. Not enough. No parliament in the world will say we can't do with more resources. But what I'm saying, we can do more with less. So it talks about, the capacity of individual members, the institutional capacity. It talks about Parliament not being separated from the people. It's a reflection of the society we live in. And therefore, there has to be a close relationship between Parliament as an institution representing the people of the country and people actively participating and shaping their destiny through Parliament and through the laws of Parliament.
But Mr. Sisulu, what I'm saying is that this reflects perhaps a deeper problem than just issues of resources. You have MPs who are absent, and you've raised this yourself, absenteeism in Parliament, MPs who are not willing to take initiatives over and above what you offer as Parliament to go out there, interact with universities, with think tank organizations, so that then they can fine-tune their ability to make these laws.
Yes, certainly. We have identified a number of problem areas or challenges, which is why we have these budget debates, because we have an open discussion about the problems that we encounter. We don't hide any problems, we put them out there and try to seek solutions to the problems that we have found. And certainly attendance is a problem. We've raised it not once but many times, and we are now asking the parties to come with a solution by the end of July. The 31st of July is the last date, by which time there must be a solution as to what happens to those who do not come to Parliament or attend parliamentary sessions. Remember that being a member of Parliament is a full-time job, at least in South Africa. So therefore, people must be in Parliament. They're expected to be in Parliament. They are paid to attend parliamentary sessions and also to be in committees. Otherwise, we don't co-rate, and therefore we can't, do our work.
Sure.
So that's a major problem.
Are you saying there's no well-defined recourse? I mean, if I don't come to work, I'll get fired. What happens to MPs who don't come to work?
Well, the parties need to finalize this. What happens to MPs who don't come to work is that they continue not coming to work. That's just the problem that we're faced with. And therefore, we need to make sure that there are consequences for non-attendance. But it is a party political matter. It's not the responsibility of the presiding officers, which is why parties are responsible for their members. Parties are responsible for making sure that members are in Parliament when they are required to be in Parliament, and also at the constituency offices if they are required to be at the constituency offices.
Because the broader implication is that the public representatives are letting down the very people that they are supposed to be representing. If they don't pitch for processes that relate to lawmaking, therefore you're not representing me.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's a two-way process. We need to make sure that the representatives of the people are actually representing the interests of the people at all levels, national, provincial, local government, etc. And we also need to make it possible for members of Parliament to be able to carry out their work, which is why we're putting in place programs to support the committees, because these are the engines of Parliament, and also to support individual members. But most important, that the Parliament is a joint effort between the different parties, political parties in Parliament, and also the administration. So we need to find a way of making sure that what we do have gets better and better, not worse and worse.
Is it getting worse and worse at the moment?
Well, we'll make sure it doesn't get worse, but it gets better and better.
And I'm asking this question on the basis of what the opposition parties then said in responding to your budget vote the other day, where they were saying that Parliament is malfunctioning. They're saying that mediocrity is just part of the game and that it is boring, dull, and has absolutely no contribution, I think, in the broader scheme of things in spreading democracy. Well,
about, being dull, I can understand if the discussions are so technical that even members of Parliament don't understand them. So it will be dull for them because they wouldn't understand, which is why we need to school them, educate them, increase their ability to understand and comprehend the process of lawmaking and what the laws are all about. So yes, dull, it's not like going to a cinema. It's like actually doing a lot of hard work, being in the library, catching up with the reading. So being a member of Parliament is simply not an entertainment. It is work and hard work. So there is a responsibility on individual members, as indeed responsibility on parties in Parliament, to make sure that their members perform and perform well.
Sure. But also dull may mean that Parliament is not at the center, at the heart of the ongoing discussions in the country.
Yes. We have mentioned this in our speech, and we quoted the Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, who earlier this year asked us to consider whether we are accessible enough to the people we represent. He also asked us to use our constituency offices and space for dialogue with the constituency. So, which brings in another element of Parliament, constituency work, being in touch with your constituency, our constituency, and also being in touch with the people out there, taking Parliament to the people and bringing people to Parliament. It's a process that involves the institution of Parliament as an institution of democracy, interacting with the people, hearing what they want, and also articulating their fears, concerns, and hopes and aspirations.
Let me bring in Paul here with me. Paul, you've been monitoring Parliament over the years, and as you heard, the Speaker raises the issue of not becoming worse and worse, becoming better and better. Is our Parliament becoming better and better, or worse and worse?
It's not doing that well at the moment, but I think the Speaker is behaving as a good Speaker should, drawing attention to the weaknesses in Parliament. And one should not underestimate the difficulty that Parliament has in the South African situation, where there's a very strong executive. And there's quite a separation between the executive based in Pretoria and the Parliament based in Cape Town. One of the issues that the Speaker raises is the questions to the executive. You know, if you're a member of Parliament, you want to see the executive, you want to be able to ask them questions, and if they are remiss or not taking that seriously, then the heat drops out of the debate. The other thing is that you have one party which is very dominant. This is what the voters want, but the reality is that then it's quite easy for a number of the members of Parliament to think that it's more important to be doing party business outside of Parliament, or more important to just be a praise singer rather than in the heat of debate, because after all, you can vote and win.
You're raising a number of issues. I want to go back to the issue of the strong executive. Why is the executive strong? Explain that to me. Isn't the executive supposed to be exactly the same level as Parliament and as the judiciary, as the arms of government?
Well, we all know that members of Parliament hold their seats by virtue of their position within the party.
Yes.
They don't easily develop their own independent constituencies, and therefore the senior leadership of the party has definitely a sway over the junior members. Secondly,
in any case, why should it be the junior members in Parliament?
If you're making your way, you want to feel that you're pleasing those who can keep you there.
Well, the issue of Travelgate, I think, has been investigated sufficiently, and there's a lot of information on the so-called Travelgate. I wouldn't want to spend time on it because information is available. And I think it was done, as far as I'm concerned, properly, because law enforcement agencies were also involved. In terms of the Secretary to Parliament, I did mention in my input where we are with this process. It's an ongoing process, and I wouldn't like to comment on it. It's before the POA, the Parliamentary Oversight Authority, and I am not involved in it myself.
All right. But again, just in wrapping up, you say that people can write to Parliament if they want to raise some of the issues and get a little closer to some of the discussions going on.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what Parliament is all about. It's about people writing to Parliament, coming to Parliament. It's about Parliament going to the people. And I take the point about, constituency offices and constituency work. We need to take that more seriously than we've done in the past.
Sure. Mr. Graham, just if you were to give an advice and final word.
Everything we do has to deal with the quality, constitutionality and developmental impact of legislation. And both citizens outside Parliament and MPs must work together to do this.